All right, folks, I'd like to start the main meeting of the Bennington School District Board of Directors meeting, please. And before we jump into our agenda, I would like a motion, please, to add an executive session to our agenda tonight pursuant to 1 VSA 313.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, so we'll add that executive session at the end of our agenda tonight. So first up is a presentation by Mr. Ron Smith to speak to us about the audits, please. Hi, and Renee Gordon. It's always great to have Renee.
Good evening. I'm Ron Smith. I'm the principal with RHR Smith & Company. This is the second year we've had the opportunity to do the audit for you all. I'm pleased to say you got our highest opinion out in our auditing profession, an unmodified opinion, to go over the state of the school district as of June 30th. You guys ended last year with about $1,350,000 of carryover balance. You used about $540,000 of that to reduce this year's budget, 2017, that's about to end in June 30th, and left you with about $800,000 of unassigned fund balance to use for future budgets. So I think that you're in a very good financial position as of June 30, 16. In addition to that, you have $300,000 of renovation funds sitting aside in reserve, and that was added to by about $50,000, as I recall, from 2016. And yeah, I think that you guys are good. Doesn't take long to spend $300,000 though, but certainly I think that you guys have had some foresight to put that money away. Some of our talking points at the superintendent's office are with best practice with the students' money. We've provided them a letter with some of our comments and better practices that we'd like to see, and certainly we can give Bennington School District their comments on that. Nothing's jumping out at me for you, that would do. But there were still some best practice issues that Renee and I and Jim are working on in these upcoming audits, and I would say that would probably summarize everything that we've had for talking points this past year.
Okay.
We'll be in here in the next 30 days to do some pre-audit work for the year that's about to end in 2017, and look forward to giving you an update on that.
Great. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I didn't get to read this ahead of time because I couldn't open it at home. So could you, what was our fund balance again?
About $1,350,000 on June 30, 16. And of which I think you used about $540 to reduce taxes for this budget that's about to end June 30, 17.
Okay.
Leaves you a little over $800,000 for unassigned.
Okay.
For future budgets.
Thank you.
I have one
Please.
question.
Yep.
On page 34, on the interest rate risk, could you give us your opinion where it goes on the second sentence? It says, the school district does not have a formal investment policy that limits investment maturities as a means of managing its exposure to fair value losses arising from fluctuations in interest rate. So my question is, do you recommend or suggest that the district have a policy pertaining to that particular item?
So a couple of things. You're covered under the Vermont statutes for risk. So certainly that's something that applies and extends all the way to your financial institutions as well. I think that the question is going to be, is there something more restrictive, something better, for a lack of a better way to say it, for the school district to use? And there's always something better. That's mainly, that comment right there, that risk is mainly in the market. And if the market goes down, so are the opportunities and chances that your investment are going to go down with it as well. But that's something certainly that we can look at. But again, you're protected under the statutes, with investments. And I think the question is there something, something usually where I tell that is with large endowments, large scholarships, large discretionary money that school systems may have. And that's usually where that comment's geared to. And this district, although you've got some private purpose funds, some trust fund money, that exists out there, not to the point where I think it would call for any additional protection, for lack of a better way to say it, over the statute.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to be here.
I move that we accept the.
Thank you, Jackie. Do we have a second for Jackie's?
I'll second.
Thank you, George. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Motion passes. Great. Agenda item 2, citizens' comments, please. Please. And this is Gene Rowley.
Yes.
Hello.
How you all doing? Gene Rowley, Bennington, Vermont. First off, this is the first meeting that I've been able to make since all of you came on, the new members. I'd like to wish you all good luck. 2 questions. First off, which meeting should we expect the test scores to be coming out on from the latest set of testings? When do you probably expect it?
So given that public comments aren't open for feedback necessarily, I would say definitely keep an eye on the agenda items that come up as the meetings are warned.
That was very nice.
That was very melodic. But I guess just suffice to say that, Gene, that public comments are not the time for back and forth. So I can't quite speak to that right now.
Okay. All right, so pretty much you don't want any questions.
No, it's, well, you can certainly ask the questions. We are restricted in what we can respond to.
Okay. My next question pertains to Act 46.
Okay.
What is the feeling of the board as far as Act 46 goes? So I just posed a question to the board.
So I would say, answering very generally, that our agenda speaks to that tonight, and so I hope you'll wait with bated breath and stick around and hear the answer to that.
Well, I saw it was in the superintendent's message, but as far as how does the board feel, the BSD board feel about it?
Thank you for the question.
Okay.
Any other public comments? Okay. Moving on to agenda item 3, an update on Nature's Classroom. And I believe this is, we have some representatives from Molly Stark to speak on this.
Oh, I gotta put these on. Hello, everybody. Is everybody having a great week? You teachers, for your getting pampered? Come here. Yes, yes.
Been very
Wait.
good Teacher
Farrah,
Appreciation Week.
Come here, please. Okay, she's part of this. So, Andrea Gassaway, and this is Kara Watson. We were asked to head up the Nature's Classroom from the previous board, so we just kind of want to let you guys know what's going on. We have fundraised $6,260 in those 3 months, with the aspect that the fundraising came in from the other donations, which I don't know if they have.
At $400.
Okay, it should be $550, so I'll talk with you about that later. The down payment has been sent in, and I wrote you a check and a separate check of the balance. So I'm giving that to you. Okay, there you go. I don't want that anymore. Okay, so there's a balance, that's a $1,300 check after the down payment. And the $10 check made out to Molly Stark. Okay, the other things we want to talk about is that we sent in the permission slip, the contact, the med forms, that whole packet has been sent in. The rooms, the team, the lunch forms, everything's been in, the $444. There's a note going home Friday to the students about their rooming. That's going to go home. And then I'm hoping to work with the principals, hopefully for Monday the 15th, depending on their schedules, about having another sit down with the kids for like 10 minutes, make sure they have their supply list, they didn't lose it, and then go home to the parents and hand it in.
Because it was in the bottom of the packet.
It didn't get handed in. I didn't get any back.
Okay, good.
But you know they probably lost it because I had to call a lot of people to get the packet. So, and maybe a pep talk from the principals about how we're going to conduct ourselves on this trip. There's not a lot of the teacher happening in that, so I think it's important maybe we do that again and really work with them. The chaperones are getting an info packet with all the contact information, the list of the rooms, who's in the rooms, the field trips, all that kind of stuff.
And we're on a group text.
And they're on a group text. I do have that there too, thank you. A group text, and the school, I'm making packets for you guys. So you have all the information that I've gathered and put together, so that you have it. And the busing, Jackie's still working on getting,
We're not sure if we need 1 or 2 buses, or if we can put a few students on one either your bus or Shasberry's bus. So Jerry O'Connor was gonna work with either you or Shasberry if they ever call me back from the busing
And
company.
the issue is the supplies, not just...
That's what he was
that-
telling me. But when I called him the first time, it was over 50 kids, it's 44, so I'm not sure if we're actually gonna need 2 buses, or if we can just,
Ours is packed.
I figured it
And we
was,
have a parent
because you're a full school.
driving. And she
Yeah.
did say that she would take a lot of the gear
Yeah.
in the car, so we could maybe cut that cost down, so we didn't need a second bus if that
a good
should
idea.
arise.
And we could pay a
So-
certain percentage of Shasberry's bus if they have room on theirs, rather than, because it's 1,000-something a bus.
So I think we can work it out. So I do want to say, I know you guys have a big agenda, that, we had a really good time working together as a team. A lot of the parents came up. We had a couple dads that were troopers with all the women, I have to say, that came along, and they really worked together. We met new people. It was really fun. I think that it showed that we all can work as a team when we want to set out and do something and fundraise together, and that we are like the parents of fundraising. I mean, they did a really good job, and they really
They did
worked
awesome
hard
in a short
together.
time. And I would like to volunteer if, I don't know if is there a teacher at Molly that has stepped forward to want to progress with this? Because as a parent, have already gone through, I'll help keep it going. Because it'll be easier next time. This time was kind of like, you're going through the ropes trying to get it done, but we've been there, I can help. So I'd like to put myself out there to be that parent to keep it moving, keep the momentum going and not waiting until later. Let's do it sooner than later.
Yeah, and I do suggest that too, because I think we have, how many, Mike, not going? 40 from this school?
42.
42, and we didn't get probably 30 of those packets back at all with a yes or no. And I think that's the lack of time, that it should have been done in the beginning. But no big deal, what's done is they just didn't turn them in. And if we had more time, we could have really, babysat better and called them more and did that kind of thing. And I think the second time, we just pick up more and more each time, so it should go. And people are excited about it. I mean, we had some 3rd grade parents, 4th grade parents that are excited about
That
coming
are
up
hoping it
from
keeps
both
going.
schools.
They keep asking, is this the only trip? I said, I don't think so. I think this is something they would like to keep doing
Most of-
year after year.
Yeah, so it was
Like
great.
mine has.
Yeah, so thank you. Do you guys have any questions that we did or didn't do? We tried to make sure we.
I just want to
did
make a
everything.
comment. I attended many of their functions where they were raising money, and these people did a phenomenal job. Put in a lot of time.
Short time.
Put a lot of time in a very short time. Andrea has put in an extreme amount of time, because I stepped back, and she took over the Nature's Classroom thing and making sure it happened with,
And there goes my thought.
and one of the things that I would like is when they come back, that the principals have some kind of meeting with the students in the 3rd and 4th grade, so that the students in your school can explain their experiences they had and what happened, and the teachers would get a better idea of what goes on, because this is supposed to be a teacher bonding thing for students too, and hopefully in the future, it'll be easier to find teachers that'll do it.
Yeah, I think parents had a hard time with that because they were asking the teachers, like at conferences and stuff, and they didn't have an answer. And I did approach Mike after I heard about that, and we talked about it. Because they didn't, even if they weren't involved in it and they're not going, they should still kind of know what's going on to answer the questions, because I think the parents felt a little uneasy because of that, so. But we tried to make them at ease as best we could, so. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Great. Thank you so
My
much.
elementary days are done.
So item agenda number 4 is a discussion on our animal presentation from our April meeting. As I'm sure you recall, and for those of you who maybe didn't see the April meeting, we had a trio of students from Monuments present their thoughts on what ought to be an updated animals in the schools policy. And we heard their presentation. I thought they did a very nice job. And I was wondering if anyone wanted to put forth a motion to make a request to the SVSU Policy Committee to draft something in response to that student presentation. That's the topic on the floor. If there's conversation or a motion.
I'd like to ask a question. Isn't there a policy in place now?
There is, but it's viewed that that policy doesn't allow the classroom pets. I believe that's what the modification that they're asking for.
Well, isn't it true that Shaftesbury has pets in the classroom?
If you tell me that they're there, then I don't know.
Is the question, though, is there a Shaftesbury policy that allows pets in the classroom?
Well, they follow the same policies we do.
No, they don't. I'm looking at the 6160, and Shaftesbury adopted it February 12th of '08, but BSD did 6161. So BSD's is separate and different.
I see.
Thanks.
I just wondered why the discrepancy.
It's because we have a different one.
Dan?
And just to Merity's point, I think that the SVSU policy is much more comprehensive and covers the issues that some of those students, that the students raise, and I would agree that we should send it to the SVSU Policy Committee to see if they would recommend either that BSD adopt their policy as already written, or perhaps there's some additional changes they should make. And I'd be happy to carry that message to the Policy Committee.
And I agree with Dan.
So it just as a point of order and for my own edification, if for no one else's, if the SVSU policy seems to accomplish what the Monument students had asked us to, and it's BSD that has not adopted what is the policy in place already, is that simply a matter for our board to adopt the SVSU? I'm confused. I'm confused why other places.
Can we do it tonight? Is that what you're asking?
Well, not necessarily we can do it tonight, but is that the right step? Is that the right series of steps to take?
I have a question though, because I read 6160, where it says the BSD did not adopt 6160, and that they created 6161, Animals in Schools, which is this one.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it reads generally the same, with the exception of guidelines. It says, with the permission of the school principal, animals may be kept in the classrooms, may be present during the school only as part of classroom instruction or as part of specific curriculum-based presentation or assembly. Animals presence is appropriately linked to the curriculum. And Mrs. Marcoux spoke to the point that she wanted to incorporate the animals directly into her curriculum. And so I was sort of curious as to why we needed to vote on anything when it was already written here. Mrs. Marcoux addressed the fact that, and that the children addressed the fact that they wanted to work on their 5 Bs using the animals. And that the animals would be used on an adoptive status so that they are available for adoption, so they're not permanent, that they're available for adoption. Essentially, the school is fostering, and during the fostering process, they're going to be used as part of the curriculum. So I didn't really see why it was even presented to us as a question for why we needed to step in when it was sort of spelled out in here.
So a question for our principal at the table, please, and for our superintendent. Would the PBIS constitute curriculum to satisfy what is spelled out in this policy?
I think that the PBIS and the attendant CI3T, which is the Comprehensive Integrated Multi-Tiered System, can be construed as curriculum because it's something that's K-5. It's anchored, it's progressive, and is in all classrooms K-5.
Okay. So I think what that means is we can just shift this on the principals and be done with it.
That was my feeling, was that
All right,
it
thank
sort
you.
of fell to you guys. With the allergy issue is your own deal, but yeah, I didn't really see,
Okay.
it seemed like it was sort of a non-issue to me.
I have the fact sheet from what they presented that night, and they're asking for, class pets to improve learning skills in areas like math, science, art, and other subjects. So that certainly would be curriculum-based. And problems and solutions. The allergies is the problem. They would find an animal that no one has allergies to. So I think they're addressing concerns, and I would be fine with empowering the principal to make that decision with on that it's curriculum based, and make sure that the pet is one that would be allergy free.
Great. Shayla, you had something?
Yeah, it kind of answered my question.
Okay, great. Great, so if we're in agreement on that, I'd like the board's permission, please, to reach out to Ms. Marcoux at Monument and to the 3 students who presented to us, just to give them that feedback. Would that be all right with folks?
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks.
So does that mean it could be ongoing?
It would
As long
mean
as
that-
the-
I
as
would
long
say
as-
that it means that a teacher could petition the principal that this is a classroom curriculum project that they want to do, and that they can justify it to the principal and read the criteria, then that's a principal building-based decision. The policy allows it.
Like hatching eggs?
I don't know if that would meet the allergy requirement, but...
Hatching eggs, yeah.
Well,
We do hatch,
Yeah.
we do hatch eggs. But then they.
Then you have to get somebody to adopt them, right?
I have, my biggest concerns is cats and dogs.
Sure.
I have
Yeah, no.
extreme allergies to them, many
The
kids
children actually
do.
said they were looking at the smaller animals,
Yeah.
hamsters and rabbits.
The bathrooms and stuff like that.
Because clearly that wouldn't, there wouldn't be a solution to the allergy problem with a cat or a dog.
Sure. Okay. Great. Moving on to number 5, the finance and facilities. So we have a treasurer's report, and then an update on the energy project. So we'll start with the treasurer's report, please. Hi there.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tim Bluto. I'm the new BSD treasurer. Many of you faces I know haven't really been officially introduced to all of you, but looking forward to meeting and working with everyone. I'm really in a transitional mode with this right now, but I'd like to thank Joan and Renee for helping me through the process. Learning a lot. We're very close to having a report ready for tonight, but it's not quite ready. So I won't be giving a report this evening, but you can expect one via email within the next day or two. Next meeting, I will have a full report. As I catch up, April will be my first month's report as full treasurer. As you know, I came in with a lot of you in May, or March, in a transitional month, so just getting up to speed with switching over all the account information and the files was it's pretty intense. It's a pretty interesting process, and getting very familiar with it. It's coming along. I'll have a lot more for you next time.
It's not unusual for this board to get the treasury report a month late because they meet the first Wednesday of the month. So you're usually, those who've been here know to expect that it's usually 1 month in the rears that they're looking at.
Hopefully, some months, if the date does come a little later, I mean, I would like to get to a point where we're really caught up with the
Yeah.
reports, and it shouldn't take too long to get them if we can get all the files in a timely fashion, and usually we do. So I hope to make that more current for you going forward. Just in the beginning, it's a lot of information, a lot to just wrap your head around, but very close to that now, and looking forward to it. It's very interesting, learning a lot. So, but the accounts are in very good shape right now. We're not in any danger of overdrafting anything at the moment. In the coming months, we will be looking at getting some loans to hold us over until the new property taxes come in and whatnot. That's pretty standard procedure. So that's really all I have for you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Not to be asked.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question right now.
Big bucks.
Sure. Thanks, Rick. Yes, Dr. Kelly.
On budget. I was just wondering, since we're not having a so-called summer program, and money was budgeted for this program, are we just going to just roll that over into the next budget time, or can it be spent on field trips for the end of the year?
So one of the things that we might be using that money for, we have unexpected costs that weren't budgeted for, like packing supplies. A meeting that we had prior to this is anything from the number of boxes and packing tape that we're going to have to order, and plastic for wrapping everything that can't be packed. So that was one source of funds for that we're tapping, but Renee can certainly look and see if we have other sources. And there was another organization that had asked if we could use that money to fund summer programs, and that is in the partnership with the YMCA that's coming into town. And we're not convinced that we are going to have much depth in that account right now, right?
I'd have to look.
Yeah.
Didn't we budget 125 for the summer program? In the 3 schools?
Yeah, I can't, not from memory, I wouldn't be able to tell you what we have.
I think that's what we fought for a couple of years ago.
Well, we
That's
won't
the number
certainly-
that I got in my mind.
If that's the number, then we certainly won't spend that on.
I was gonna say, how much packing?
That's a lot of bubble wrap.
I thought it was a much lower number than that, but let us look at that and get back to
I
it.
can remember sitting here and we, because of the many weeks, I'm pretty sure, Jim, and
Well,
Renee,
Renee will,
that it's,
she will look and give us what that number is.
I could be wrong though.
If it is possible, since all the principals are here, can, and it, I don't want to say it's June already, but can we know by May if it's
We're in May.
allowable? Is that too fast?
Well, if we're talking about summer programming, that would be next year's budget.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, but, okay.
Yeah. But our fiscal year is going to end June 30th, which is really what's in next year's budget for this.
So then we could spend it maybe in the beginning of the year, or next year, we could add it to,
We already added money too.
right?
Yeah, whatever's not spent will roll over into fund balance.
But,
Yeah, because fiscal year 16, summer money has already been spent. I mean, fiscal year 17, summer money has already been spent. That was spent last summer.
right, so can we kind of play it forward and then have more money available for field trips next year? Well, can we?
Yeah, I'm sure that's, that would be possible. And you can vote to move your money anywhere you want, but what you can't do is spend it for field trips for the end of this year. But why don't we, Renee, we'll look and see what really is on that line, what is that line item in that account for next year's budget. And we'll put that for your June meeting, we'll give you that.
All right, great, thank you. So how about an update on the energy project, please?
Good evening, my name is Jonathan Brush, I'm from Energy Efficiencies. The update should be quick, help you get out early enough, or earlier. This evening we met with, Jerry Prue and I met with the principals and the superintendent and business manager to go over concerns and to rough in our first pass of how we're going to approach handling distribution of materials that are existing in the classrooms now and get them out of the way so that contractors can do their work. And we may have a second meeting as we get closer to the end of the school year. Email is also an option for the principals to me and my partner who will be running the show. We just received our latest and they're classified as construction documents from the engineering group that's doing Molly Stark and Bennington Elementary. So we're very close to being ready to go on those two buildings. And my understanding is that the drawings are either ready for press or already sent to press for Monument School. The electrical engineer will have his drawings ready with all the mechanical updates that just took place. He'll have that ready for us next week, so those drawings will be construction ready also. That means that we can now order the equipment, and that's a very good thing that we're ordering in May, 1st of May instead of 1st of June. That puts us in the front of the line. We'll have our stuff. Hopefully, unless something really out of our control hits, we'll have our stuff on site and ready to be installed way ahead of schedule. We had a conference call yesterday with all the concerned parties for Monument School and, Bennington and Molly Stark. All the players were convinced that we're ready to go, so we gave the contractor the go-ahead for those orders of materials. And another meeting next week will be with the players for the Monument School. I think that's it. And if anybody has any questions.
Go ahead, George.
Are we on schedule?
We are on schedule. We're actually ahead of schedule. which is a really nice thing, and that's a blessing of being able to wait this. I know that was tumultuous last year, but this extra amount of time has been a real godsend for the plan. It's a very tight plan.
My question is, well, number one, the windows look wonderful at Bennell. I went by and looked. So you should all go and look at the corridor windows. They looked really nice put in. They did a good job. Did you guys do a mock-up of the
Yes,
pipes?
we did. We were scheduled to do a mock-up of the radiant heat panels that are going to go into Bennington Elementary and Molly Stark classrooms. And if anybody's curious, I believe it's room 213. Is that right? 213, the unit is hanging. It's 18 feet long, 2 feet in
At Bennell?
depth across.
At Bennell?
In Bennell, room 213. It's a white gloss finish. It is very, very nice looking. It's non-intrusive, I guess is a better way to put it.
That was a big concern because the ceilings aren't, you can't put it above the ceilings, there's no space in a lot of the buildings. And if you go through Molly Stark, some of yours don't, your ceiling is the roof. So what this was gonna look like, all these pipes and stuff that have to be run through. And they were talking at a meeting about, I think it was 2 months ago, the only meeting I've been to. Anyways, they were talking about it, and I asked them if they were gonna do a mock-up to show us, so the facilities committee or the whole board should look at them to make sure it's what you
I
really
think you'll
want.
find it's almost attractive in comparison to a univent that's on the floor.
Can you speak to what will the upkeep look like for the new heating bits, for the new air circulation systems? And if you're unable to speak to that, maybe we can find out who could be better able to speak to that. But in response to a question that someone else had asked me,
Okay.
what's that going to look like?
A manual will be created by the HVAC companies on how to maintain the equipment from your school maintenance department's approach. And there's also a suggestion that your annual and semi-annual tune-ups, so to speak, are provided to you by Bennington Cooling and Heating, because they're in town. And so that's being worked out between Bennington Cooling, Heating, and New England Air, who's up in Williston. So you'll get a better deal if you get them to agree to get their warranty packages sent over to Bennington Cooling, because they're right here in town. You won't have to pay door-to-door travel. But there will be a manual. It's an operations and maintenance manual, and that will be a loose leaf binder that will be provided to the school. There will also be a video walkthrough for the DDC controls system, which is your electronic controls of how you manage your heating system. So the maintenance department will be walked through how to run that from the computer, how to run it from test points within the building, and all that will be videoed, and they'll be given a copy of that video. So obviously we can't pull it all in and hold it.
Right.
So there'll be a checkpoint.
Great. Anyone else have any questions, Mr. Brush? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, agenda item number 6 is our consent agenda.
There was an amended agenda sent today. I don't know if you all have it. I have copies. If you don't, we added, it's that time of year that we're hiring a lot of people, and since you won't have a meeting till June, I'm afraid that if we don't hire them tonight, they might go elsewhere. So I interviewed them just yesterday, so the amended
This is
agenda
May.
consent has the additional of hiring a .4 library media specialist at Monument. Does anyone need a copy of that?
No, that's fine. If that's the only change.
That's the only change, yep.
All right, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, George. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Meredith. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, any opposed? Fantastic, the consent agenda is accepted. On to number 7, educational matters. Dr. Mugis, you're at the table.
Thank you. As you can see, we have evidence of the week-long school-wide event of the Medieval Fair, and that's been an initiative born out of Martha Phelps, the art teacher, and Janie Hart, music teacher, working in concert with the staff members. So if you walk throughout the school, you'll see a lot of medieval artifacts and decorations. I have to admit, one of our kindergarten learners asked me what the Middle Ages were like. So that child's going to be held back. But tomorrow we will have medieval fair, and then there will be an assembly, a presentation, and then tomorrow evening, many of our talented learners will take the stage for that. And I believe that that rock behind you with the sword, it's kind of like King Arthur. Anyone who can pull that sword out can end the board meeting immediately. Our shared decision-making team, which is comprised of staff members and parents, continues to examine how we can construct a more efficient 5-day schedule. If you don't know, Molly Stark is the lone BSD school that's on a 6-day rotating schedule. So it's hard. You're teaching kindergartners days of the week, and they have to think of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and what's day 1, day 2, and that rotates. So it provides for a very complex and cumbersome schedule, and we're also looking at more effective use of our available space. The 52,000 square feet we have here is sufficient. It's just the way that it's been designed and laid out, where there are a number of rooms you can only get to by going through another room. So we're looking at where classrooms are situated to provide grade levels in close proximity of each other to promote collaboration, and also for those service providers who are dealing with kids like interventionists or special needs teachers with kids from multiple classrooms. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and our parent and teacher group is really active, very supportive. And one of the things I'd like to call your attention to is, as you leave this evening, if instead of going directly out this door, if you will just turn right a little bit to the foyer, you will see that they put a bulletin board up. It's called a shout out board, with post-it stickers and pens available, and people can just write some compliment of a staff member, some nice note, and it's already full. So we're really pleased with that. The PTG has also provided tokens of gratitude presented to all staff members, because we recognize that everyone who works here is a teacher. Regardless of certification, they are teaching expectations. They are teaching as a role model, and they have acknowledged all of our staff members. Gail and I provided breakfast for the staff yesterday morning, and we have a number of things going on, and it's been very good. And speaking of our parent-teacher group, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts and the generosity and their energy that were displayed by Shayla and Jenna Caslin, who really took the lead on a district-wide parent conference raising happy and healthy kids. And we were really pleased that all of the different not-for-profit agencies that provided information and resources, that they are anxious to sustain this and want to come back for next year. PTG provided nice tote bags for everyone, and we stuffed them with things. John Bloom from the Clip Shop provided combs and different things, taught people how to braid hair. Mike Nolan taught people how to tie bow ties and ties. We had any number of activities, and we were really pleased to bring that many representatives from throughout the area, principally Bennington, together to share in their common goal of promoting great opportunities to build constructive futures for our children. So they're already looking forward to next year, and I am very appreciative of Shayla and Jenna for doing that. Now, today's chilly, rainy weather, off and on, it's been kind of an odd past several months of weather. that confusing weather pattern that we've experienced was a good opportunity for Mr. Nolan's third grade class, because WTEN Channel 10 came out with their mobile storm unit and forecast and arrived here at 4:30 in the morning. That's the only time anyone's ever arrived at this school before Gail Johnson. Normally here at 5:30. But the kids really enjoyed listening to everything that goes in, learning about what goes into forecasting that weather. And so we were grateful that Channel 10 came out and brought their weather tracking van and equipment. Mr. Nolan's class also partnered with a class from Monument, and electronically through the camera, the webcam, and our smart board in the library, the two classes worked together on a shared activity, and it was a nice interaction. And we're going to look for other opportunities to go well beyond that. And actually, I'm going to mention something later that is a little bit greater distance than from here to Monument. We have a very active after-school program, and among the opportunities we provide are tennis lessons being adjacent to the tennis center. And we went over, and I spoke with Seth Gabriel, and I thought I was going over there because we are seeking their cooperation in becoming an evacuation site in case the school has to evacuate. They were very accommodating about that, and we'll work up a letter holding them harmless and protecting their liability in the event that we have to go there. But I was surprised it wasn't just that. There were a group of people, a grant writer and several others, who want to work together with Molly Stark and expand the program. One of the people present was from Bennington College. So we were just talking in general about different concepts, and later this month, on the last session, the last class of this after-school session, the learners who participate in the tennis center, instead of going there for their lessons, Bennington College is transporting them up to Bennington College for their lessons. But beyond that, what I asked for is, a lot of our kids hear their parents and others say, we want you to go to college, you need to go to college. But typically, an elementary child, their only notion of college is seeing college sports, or they've heard of Notre Dame because of football or something. And it's really, the high school will tell you, it's too late to start thinking about college in 10th, 11th grade. And so Bennington College is going to accommodate those learners on a tour of the college, different buildings, dormitory, cafeteria, lecture halls, so that they can see enough to have a mental picture of what a college is. That you don't wait for a bell to tell you where to go. That you often have to go to different buildings for classes as opposed to just down the hall. That you have to share a small space with someone you've never met before in a dormitory. And that you get to go back for seconds and thirds on ice cream, which is an important thing. So our kids are going to be going to Bennington College, and they are providing the transportation, and we've worked this out in conjunction with the tennis center. So we're hoping to forge a partnership that will grow. Now, our school has been working, our fifth graders have been working with Allison Hoffman and Karen Gross, who's a former president of Bennington College and the author of Lady Lucy's Quest. And this book is oriented towards empowerment, determination, being goal-oriented, and growing confidence. And so Karen has been here on a regular basis throughout the school year working with our fifth grade learners. But she's also working with another school. So our kids, a number of them will be coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning on May 18th, because they're going to be interacting with a school in Tanzania who's also reading Lady Lucy's Quest. Now, our kids have already seen some information and pictures of the school and a video, including their playground is like a cinder block where you jump and do somersaults off the cinder block, quite different. And it's a good opportunity for our kids to use something common, in this case this book and the theme and everything it represents, to interact in real time with, I think it's across 7 or 8 time zones, so that we're coming in early, they're staying late, and our learners will be interacting with the learners in 5th grade in Tanzania in the school. And they similarly have been exposed to information about our school. Lastly, Molly Stark has completed the test window for SBAC. And in terms of Jean's question, the state embargoes the data so that it's not, schools have different windows. In fact, we tested differently than, I think, Bennell or Monument. So you choose that window, but the state embargoes the data, and they're the ones that determine when that information can be released. And I'm not sure when that is. Perhaps one of the other principals can comment about when it was last year. But the kids have completed the test, which means that parents would expect to see the outcomes, but that's a function of the state to determine once they release that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time and patience.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mutes. Principals Law or Colley, anything to add this evening?
I think it's great to just share a list of exciting stuff going on in our schools. I first want to say I really appreciate all of our staff members, and because there was such a mix-up, I think, on Teacher Appreciation Week, was this the first full week of May? Because Sunday wasn't May 1st. We're just celebrating for 2 weeks.
Very competitive, aren't you?
That's right. So we've done a few things for our staff this week with the help of the Abbey Group, and next week our AIM, Adults Interested in Monument, put on a wonderful, exciting spread every single day, and also treat our staff members to lunch and fulfill our roles, which is really even nice because it gives them a break. Kindergarten transition meetings and orientation and welcoming activities are well in place and happening. Tonight we had a kindergarten orientation for our families. Transition, 5th grade to 6th grade, has occurred. The kids are already excited and talking about moving to the middle school. Our interview teams have been busy interviewing individuals for open positions, one that we hired this evening, which was great. I'm so glad to hear that. Again, I'll repeat, we had that long distance math lesson between Mrs. Marcoux's class and Mr. Nolan's class. That was really exciting to see. I posted some video and some pictures, live video of that happening, which is really neat, on our Facebook page. SBAC testing began this week for Monument. As Dr. Mugis has shared, we all have a different window, so we're hoping to have all of our children completed by the time 5th grade goes to Nature's Classroom. And in addition, kneecap science for 4th grade will be occurring soon. And soon after that, we will be benchmarking for the last time map testing with all of our students and fast bridge testing for our youngers. Monument Chorus Concert is happening on May 12th. We're so excited about hearing those voices. Girls on the Run, culminating event, come join us. It is on May 13th in Rutland, and I have to thank our volunteers. We have a parent, a grandparent, and a high school volunteer. Thank goodness, because she takes the pack out and sets the pace, because I can't keep up with them. So thank you, Coach Edwards, Anderson, and Ali Boudreau for doing that. Our BSD band concert, wow, our instruments sound so great. And this is the event where Molly, Monument, and Bennell all to get together at the middle school and have a concert, and that's on May 17th at 7 p.m. So I'm always excited to hear that too. Our staff, our leadership team, a small member team of our leadership team will be completing some professional learning with Pete Cudney on trauma and social emotional coaching, and that's going to occur May 23rd. National Walk at Lunch Day. If anybody didn't know, that is coming up soon. So our whole school will be walking to the monument and having lunch. Our Abbey group is phenomenal, and so is our custodian, Gary Kinney, about getting those lunches up to the monument. So we'll be walking on that day, May 26th. Let's see, what else? Track meet, May 13th, so 31st. 31st. Don't forget about that. Come cheer our elementary students on in the SVSU. Barbecue lunch by the Abbey Group. They're coming, and they're certainly going to do a wonderful spread at lunchtime on June 2nd, which is another opportunity for incoming kindergarten families to join us. We let them play with our current kindergarten children on the playground and then join us for lunch. So it's always fun. Picnic outside. Good weather. And then 2 more are Field Day, June 9th, and we are certainly preparing for the end of the school year. It is amazing how quickly everything passes once we come back from our spring vacation, and very excited about our professional learning days that Laura Boudreau in the curriculum department has created for us on the last 3 days. I think we're full.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Principal Law?
I would also like to note the Teacher Appreciation Week and our thanks for the hard work and dedication that teachers and paraprofessionals and all school staff commit to the children of the school and the town, and to our PTG for many activities, luncheons and snacks and things that they're providing. We had trauma training with Dave Milnick today as a second day of training. It's very, very helpful, useful information. We're looking really forward to having that be an impactful piece for us as we move in, finishing this year and starting next year. On May 11th, there is a district CI3T meeting, comprehensive integrated three-tiered approach, multi-tiered systems of support. Edie Dunn, the incoming principal, is expecting to be in the area to be joining us for that. So there are some transition pieces that we're starting to look at to move from me to her and have that work in a smooth manner. On May 26th, the Cliff grant that we have for Year of the Book, we will be hosting Michael Caduto, who is an author, singer, songwriter, storyteller. He's been noted with presentations on NPR, BBC, has received an ALA Best Books Award, well-known, well-reputed. He'll be at Bennell with assemblies for half the school in 1 hour, another half another hour. So we're excited about that opportunity. We also have a group called Theater Works who's coming on June 1st to present Miss Nelson is Missing. Miss Nelson is a classroom teacher who goes missing, and Viola Swamp happens to come in and take her place. So stay tuned to find out what's really happening. And finally, in preparation for the school resource officer that has been funded for next school year, we're trying to work with Bennington Police Department for some off-duty, extra duty assignments. So we're going to be requesting that they come to Bennell and try to get that whole thing kind of moving on what our expectations are, what they might expect, what we might expect, to have it work more smoothly. Won't be the same people, officers, who we have as school resource officer, but it will help the departments in the school work together and have the visual image of students seeing police officers and having them relate to the kids. So we're looking at starting that as quickly as possible, presuming that there are officers who are available to...
It's subject to availability.
...to serve in that purpose. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, agenda item number 8, we're warning policy 5411, which is the comprehensive HIV and bloodborne pathogens policy. So that was issued at the SVSU meeting last week. And Jim, when a policy is being warned, is that simply all we need to do is just say it's out there? And then it comes up for a vote next month, is that correct?
We vote on the warning.
Yeah, great, okay. So we do vote on the warning? Okay, so could I have a motion then to warn this policy for the BSD?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. There it is. All those in favor, please say aye.
Questions? Now's the time to talk.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, you can go first, too. How's that sound?
I was reading this over, and it's fairly good policy, except we're getting back to the administrative regs again. And it says education and instruction, systematic and extensive comprehensive health education, and it will follow the state law. I don't know what the state law is.
It's cited usually in the
I know,
document.
it's a number. I read it. Can we have a copy of what the training will be? How often? How are we ensuring that all are trained? Are the students going to be trained? Is it all staff? I know it says in the thing that we're only going to train the staff that would be most likely to come in contact. I'm not sure if that's covering, because as Dr. Mugit says, all of our staff are educators. And, you know, so I think, you know, a custodian or paraeducator or whoever is in a building should be trained.
So did
That's
you-
my personal opinion.
Sure, so just for some clarity on the point you're making, are your thoughts that those details should be incorporated into the policy, or are you asking for the admin regs to be crafted in addition, prior to the adoption of the policy?
I think the admin, I think they should be always crafted
Yep.
before
Yeah, I
we
recall
adopt the
that.
policy. This policy is not new. They have, so we should have been given administrative regs.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
It's my understanding, since I was a policy member at one time, you craft the policy first, and subsequent to that, you draw up admin regs. Now, I don't think the admin regs have ever come to us for our approval, and so maybe that's what we're asking for.
I'm not asking to approve the administrative regs, but I don't feel comfortable accepting a policy that I don't know how they're gonna, and because the board, one of our charges is to write policy and oversee that the policies are being followed. If we don't know what the administrative regs are, how do we know if the policy's being followed?
So this was the conversation we had last month about I think it was the
And
bullying
you're gonna have
policy.
it every time it comes up.
Right, so, I anticipate that, as a matter of fact. So I'm wondering if because also from what I recall, Jim, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, the admin regs just don't necessarily come before the board for approval, because that's kind of your shop. The board approves the policies, you figure out how they're going to be administrated, and you discuss
That's
that
also
with your staff.
the practice has been, because the policy is not the policy until after it's been warned and then adopted by all the boards. And if we go by past practice, it is often changed while it's going through that process. So once the policy is completely drafted and accepted by everyone,
Then the admin regs are crafted.
admin regs, yeah.
So I think given that, and let me finish my thought, and then Jackie, you can have the floor again. But so given that that's how it is and how past practice will have
It
it,
has been.
I think that leaves us either for you to offer to amend the policy and then send it back through the channels to include the concerns that you're raising now, or just to have you make your points and have it go through the channels that way. Please.
None of these policies that we're adopting are new. Very rarely are we adopting a new policy, because they have to be gone over in a cycle every so many years. I mean, I probably did this policy in 2008. I was on the policy committee. So we go over them.
Okay.
I think that they could bring the policy, the administrative regs with the policy, and we could make suggestions. We don't have, it's not our job to make the administrative regs, but we could make suggestions. Either it goes in the policy, or they can tell us why they don't think it should be an administrative reg.
Okay. So in terms of moving forward, is your request that when it comes time for us to renew an existing policy, that along with getting a copy of that policy to be warned, we also get the existing administrative regs?
Yes.
Okay, I think that seems reasonable, and we can make that request to the superintendent.
I mean,
when they come around.
because like I said, I've done many of these policies before. The next policy you're going to talk about, or it was for our information, the administrative regs came with it. And I remember sitting down and helping write those administrative regs with, he left, Frank. Barnes.
So when it's an existing policy, you'd like to see the existing administrative regs, with the understanding that if it's a brand-new policy, there are no admin regs because they can't be written on a thing that doesn't exist yet. Okay. All right, thank you for that.
And another clarity.
Please.
After we adopt a brand-new policy,
Mhm.
I'd like to see the administrative regs after, because it's not necessary that I'm going to spend all my time trying to go through the documents on the SVSU website, because I have difficulty at times.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on warning policy 5411? All right, so we had a first and a second. All in favor of warning policy 5411, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Any opposed? Great. So the warning passes. All right, agenda number 9. Jim?
Just finishing the note.
No. I haven't set up my...
First, let me also add my thanks to our teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. I see so many hardworking, dedicated teachers. They go about, without many thanks, go about their jobs every day. So important to what we do. It is what we do. But I'd also like to thank the principals that are gathered here, because I truly consider you master teachers. You are the mentors to everyone in your staff, so I thank you also publicly for what you do every day during Teacher Appreciation Week. Otherwise, sometimes we dismiss weeks like that. You know, last Wednesday was Administrative Assistant Week, and Wednesday Administrative Assistant Day. And when we don't have formal days, sometimes it's easy to let it go by without taking the time to thank you. So I think what is important about Teacher Appreciation Week is it forces us to remember and take time to thank you. So thank you to you and your staff for what they do for our students. Act 46, I'm going to be calling for a study committee meeting May 9th, which is next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at the CDC Assembly Room. I know that we don't have all our community members in place, but I think we do need an organizational meeting. Enough time has gone by without having one, and if we don't soon, we will send that notice out tomorrow before we will poll the members that we have listed to see what their availability is. And if it looks like we have a good solid availability, then we will go ahead and warn that meeting. Otherwise, there's so many conflicting dates as we get to this time of year. So we have teacher negotiations Monday night, support staff negotiations Tuesday night. That's why it's 7 o'clock, because your negotiations end at 6:30.
Yeah.
Right? So at the CDC Assembly at 7 o'clock. So if it does look like we will have a good showing from the appointed members from each board, then we'll go ahead and have that meeting. So the buzz from Montpelier was really stepping up today on changes to the law, because one of the things that's important to us is the June 30th deadline sunset of some options that could be closed to us as far as what we could form for a type of consolidations options that would be available to us. So it appears today that those deadlines are going to be extended to November. There are qualifiers that need to be met that would allow you to get that extension. And one would be that you had an Act 46 study committee that had a failed vote. That wouldn't be us. You have an Act 46 study committee, which then another district asks to join the study committee after it's been formed, so therefore you need an extension. That may be us. So we got a call today that the Senate is acting on another amendment that if you had another qualifier, that if you had an Act 46 study committee that then disbanded and then you reformed, then you'd also get that extension. The whole idea is they don't want to give extensions to anybody who hasn't done anything. It just sat idle back, and we
Yes.
got confirmation that, I mean,
Yes.
it hasn't passed yet because the session isn't done, but that's a Senate bill that'll be going to the House. And from everything I'm hearing, they're going to wrap up on Friday, so we should have a clearer picture of what did pass and what didn't pass and what we can take advantage of and can't take advantage of by the end of this week, so.
The extension is hopefully going to be till November.
Well,
Yes.
November. So as far as your community members, these are copies of the applications we have so far. You have 3. And that's still open as far as I know, so.
How many, 2? We're looking for 2?
I don't- The other, one of the things I want to talk to you about is I want to keep reviewing the end of school schedule because it is so different that it needs to be often repeated. We are going to draft a letter and put it up on our website, send it to parents so that they know when these, and reminded when the end of days are. So once again, so everyone's listening, Friday, June 16th is the last day for students. June 19th and 20th will be staff work days for classroom pack-up. And June 21st, 22nd, 23rd, staff professional learning days. Based on what I've learned recently coming out of the meeting that we had tonight with our contractor and some of my own personal walking tours to our building and just being really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's in our classrooms, what I'm asking the board to consider that on the week of June 12th through the 16th, that you authorize me to allow those to be half days of school. But I want lunch served. It's very important that we serve our lunch. So dismissal after lunch during the week of June 12th. I don't believe it's going to be possible to pack up the rooms to the extent that the contractor needs those rooms done in just 2 days, and we need to give our staff and maintenance staff more time to do that. So I'll ask if the board could vote to make those half days of school, and then I'll continue on.
So last month you spoke about how we were mandated to have 175 days of school instead of 180 days of
Those still
school.
will count as days of school.
So
So
is
half days.
Because what
serving
the staff was requesting, this is my answer to what the staff was requesting, was more than 2 full days to be packing up. But we won't make the 175-day requirement if I end school any earlier than the 16th. So that is day 175. So I think this will go a long way. I mean, the contractor did give us some good news today that kind of helped a bit. Rooms don't need to be completely packed up. Anything that's on a permanently mounted shelf unit, anything inside that shelf unit, not that's on top of it, can be wrapped in plastic. But we also, we teachers need to be encouraged to take any personal belongings home and not left in the building, and almost like that, they're leaving and not coming back. Because even though it will be a secure work site, what everyone needs to understand is these buildings will not be our buildings during the summer. It is the contractor's construction zone, and we need to get permission from the contractor to come onto the site. And even though he has certainly pledged that that can happen with the right notification and precautions taken as far as safety gear, if a teacher absolutely had to get into their classroom or a staff member because they forgot something that they packed away and they needed, that probably can happen as long as that particular classroom is not a work day. But I mean, it's not being worked on in that day. We also learned that, you've heard me say that the original plan, that everything was boxed up and piled in the middle of the room. That is no longer the option, what we're being told, because of the amount of overhead work with lighting.
Oh, yeah.
Everything needs to be boxed up, and it can be no more than 1 box deep along the classroom wall closest to the corridor. So the classroom wall away from the window, that's where things can be boxed up in place. I already see some faces in the back of the room there. So it's a logistical nightmare. Renee is in the process of ordering packing supplies round one, because we really don't know what it's going to take. We don't want to order particularly large boxes because of the weight that's going to be generated by overpacking, but we certainly also need large boxes for, particularly in some of our primary grades, the odd-shaped, bulky items that we'll need with there. That all changes, just to complicate it more, when we get to Monument. That wall cannot have anything placed on it in Monument because of ductwork that's going to go on in the hallway that they haven't quite determined the path that it's going to run. We also are concerned about the volume of consumables and supplies that come in over the summer, and where do we put that? So the solution that has now been worked out is the summer shipping address for all supplies that come into the Bennington School District is going to be Jerry's facility out back. And then he will distribute, and not at the end, the contractor has given us storage facilities in each of the buildings. In Monument, we have a little over half the gymnasium for storage, so things can be, but we cannot have them shipped there directly because they're not our buildings, so we would not have anybody on site who could sign for shipments. So they will be shipped here and then distributed there. The music room and art room at Bennington Elementary is available, and part of this room will be available at Ben El, but also, from Molly Stark, or it can remain in Jerry's facility until goes off. And it is storage and packing. It's not just the classrooms is one worry. You see what's in the corridors in our schools. There's a lack of dedicated storage space, and that's got to be stored somewhere. The various subcontractors who are in here will do the best they can not to damage anything, I'm sure, but anything that's left out is subject to damage. It's a construction site, it's a work zone, and it's going to be a very fast-paced work zone with multiple vendors in here. So those are some of the challenges we're facing.
They're huge.
Yeah.
External storage space, like a pod per building or two per building. I'm sure Old
Yeah.
Bennington will not love the idea of having a pod on the property,
Yeah.
but especially because they don't have a wall to place
Yeah.
anything on.
So
Are pods an option?
So we are considering that an option. We also know that we're going to be fighting even for exterior space with contractors, because they're being told that they don't have exclusive use of, like, say, this room for storage of ductwork and materials. So they very well might be bringing construction trailers onto the site for storage of their supplies too. But it definitely is an option, and it's all going to depend what Renee comes back and tells me our budget is. But as we talked about that, with Jerry, they also, whatever type of storage pod we put in is going to have to be something that's pallet acceptable, because
Get the Jackson.
we got to be able to put pallet worth of supplies in. There's as you can imagine, a lot of materials that get delivered to our schools over the summer, and anything that we don't have to move, well, everything's going to have to be moved twice, but anything that we don't have to move 3 times is going to be a good thing. So I don't ask for this lightly. I think it's important that our students are in school as much as possible, but I think that we have them here for the majority of the day, and we make sure that they have a good meal before we send them home, and then that'll give more staff time, because Jerry's crews are also going to be stretched thin as far as, the good news is we don't have to back up as much. The bad news is a lot more that has to be wrapped up in plastic. Right. So that's going to take some coordination as far as, one thing about doing it in the half days, what gets packed up is then packed up. So it'll take a little extra plan on our teachers. And we are also going to get the boxes here sooner rather than later, so that teachers can, as they maybe use, this part of their curriculum is done with for the rest of the year, that can be boxed up, but it's still become a question of where you're going to put it. So I ask for understanding and flexibility from everybody for what is going to be a very unusual end of the school year, but hopefully, though, it's going to be a much improved environment from the result of it, and everybody will be pleased with that. So if I could have the board's permission.
So Jim, I'm certain that this has been well thought out and this is the best plan, but could you just talk about what some of the alternates could have been to having these half-days this last week of school?
We could schedule school on a couple of Saturdays, but it's kind of late in the year for that. We also talked briefly about having school on Memorial Day Monday, anything that would get a full day or 2 more full days of work in the building. We feel that being May 3rd, it's a little too late in the year to notify parents of that, and that attendance would be dismal on days like that. So,
Not only that last week is usually, they have field days, they have all kinds of things. I mean,
I trust our principals to be creative in their planning during that last week, if we can give them that advantage. In the meeting that we have, they're very supportive of this idea, and I think it'll go a long way to easing the tremendous anxiety that your staff, your teachers are currently having with 2 days. I get 2 days, which sounds generous until you go into these rooms. So we also, and I'll say this publicly and let the word go forth, this would be a great time to purge what has been accumulating in your classrooms. We've talked seriously with the maintenance staff about that. Should we be bringing in dumpsters to encourage that? Jerry says not necessary, that we'll just have more frequent emptying of the dumpsters that we currently have. So we'll see how that goes out. But the principals also have that message to share with their staff, that if you haven't used it in a few years, maybe it's a good time to purge it rather than pack it up, save yourself a little trouble.
2 things. I think unfortunately, if we have to do half-days, I think it has to happen, because the reality is it has to happen. And the worst thing could be to fall behind schedule.
Right.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is, any unused, unneeded items in the classrooms versus throwing them out, if they have any value at all, recommending just donating them or offering them Sunrise,
Good point.
or offering them to any of the local daycares, especially the ones that are running pre-K programs. I'm sure they would absolutely love to have donations.
So we should think of a central collection point, Jerry, where that stuff could go. That kind of could be.
The Bennington Free Library might be willing to take a hand in that. Sunrise might be willing to. Early Childhood Center.
The collection point that
I know a person who does that for Vermont Reading Partners.
I think that would be, now, of course, some of it is going to be too far gone to salvage.
Right, and there might not be anything at all.
Well, we're hoping that the reality is, you blow the dust off, you might find some good stuff. But I think it's good to push that stuff out into the community since it's paid for.
Should that person contact you, Jim, directly, or somebody else?
We hadn't thought that idea through, so when we have our next meeting, let's when I meet with the principals and Jerry again, because what I'm thinking is what would be best if we almost had a free yard sale type thing.
Yes.
So this, as teachers don't want anything, it gets tagged. Jerry's staff moves it to this one location, and some Saturday in June, here it is. I think that might be.
that'd be a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So we'll now that we know that intent, we'll flush those details out.
Great. So could I have a motion, please, to amend the current
So
school
moved.
year? Second. Thank you, Dan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
I thank you for that, and I think your staff is going to thank you for that too, so they'll appreciate that. Just wanted to give you a little snapshot on where we are in employee turnovers this year. This is my latest report given to me from the HR director. To date, there are 4 BSD employees who have submitted letters of resignation, 3 teachers and 1 vice principal. You also have 4 SVSU employees who support the BSD who have submitted their resignation letters, 2 Title I teachers and 2 paras. So that's a total of 8 replacements as far as the HR department is aware of. There may be some late notifications, but right now that's That is not an unusual number and not actually a little bit more on the lower side. Want to give you an update on where we are with our replacement for Gail Johnson, who tells me she is still retiring. So, and I poked in her office this morning, and this afternoon or evening, and she assured me that it actually is packed up, or is packing up. So.
You have a box her size?
So not easy to replace, but the Principal Mugitz did put together a team that interviewed candidates and sent 2 finalists to me. I had a team at central office, myself interviewed the 2 finalists today. So we are going to circle back with you tomorrow, no later than Friday on, and I got to see if I can get everybody together availability, which sometimes herding cats can be a little tough. And hopefully we will have a candidate by the end of this week, which is what we promised both the candidates that we interviewed today. And it's the same thing about why, I'm not a fan of amending agendas, and why I asked you to amend one tonight, because I didn't want to lose somebody. So the same reason I want to make a quick decision on this is, I have to assume that if there are candidates here, then there are candidates elsewhere. We want to get a job offered to them sooner rather than later. And what do I have? Tomorrow, so he's right here, but I'll talk about him anyway. So Principal Mugitz, it's been on the job a year now. And as anybody who's been, I know you don't know what I'm going to say. So anybody who's been in
never
the building, do. Well, half the time I don't either. So anybody who's, you're in the building, you looked around, you start having your ideas of everything. So he has requested some room change. He's got some suggestions on, so just in case you hear about this, that maybe you got some grades that are isolated from other grades, and he has some thoughts on how, so just to complicate Jerry's summer a little bit more, we might be doing some room swap outs here for better alignment and delivery of services and education to our students. So we're going to do a walkthrough tomorrow on that to see where those requests are. And I understand the stress that might be on Jerry's crew, but I also understand the need to improve the flow of the delivery of education to our students. And no matter what we do, you still know it's less than ideal here. We have, just about every square foot of this building used either for storage or delivery of services to students in some spaces that probably it shouldn't be happening in. But, Mike's had the time to be in the building long enough to reflect on where he wants to make some of those changes, and I certainly support him on that. So we'll do that walkthrough tomorrow, but just wanted you to be aware that that might also be happening. So it's not necessarily major construction, but it certainly is, petitions that might have to be taken down and set up in other rooms. As you may or may not be aware, but in many of your classrooms in this building, there's cubicles carved out of the back of those rooms that are everything from teacher workspace to storage space to special education delivery of services to our students. And so it's not just a simple matter of moving desks and filing cabinets and boxes. Those would have to be taken down and moved all at the same time that this construction project is going on. So that's fine.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Yes, Jackie Pruitt.
Oh, I had a number. Act 46. Act 46 is my first question. At the last meeting, I was going through the minutes, and we were supposed to all get the articles of agreement sent to us. And it says in the main minutes that we're to discuss Act 46 because Mr. Sleeman had brought forth that the board should have a discussion around their feelings on Act 46. I also read in the paper, Jim, that we no longer can be advisable. We have to be necessary.
I don't know, you read that in the paper from Who was quoted saying that?
You. From Steve Stitzel. We couldn't be advisable anymore. We had to be necessary. No, nobody could be,
Yeah, what Steve Stitzel said was, remember
they printed it wrong.
the reason why, if I understand correctly, I don't know what article you're referring to, but North Bennington is, to this, as of this date, not joined the Act
Right.
46 study thing. And it's because, if you remember when we disbanded the exploratory
Right.
committee, the instructions from that committee disbanding was that they wanted the formal committee to form and only consider everybody advisable,
Right.
and that and we could only consider a modified unified school district with a hybrid model, right? So those were the two things. So when I went to Steve Stitzel and asked him to draft the motion to that effect, what he said is we could not put those restrictions on the motion because deciding who's advisable and who's advisory is the purview of the Act 46 Study Committee, not the committee that's voting to form it. And we could not put the restrictions on what type of governance or model we were going to use, because that is for that committee to decide. So it's not that we can't be necessarily
The
advisable.
banner did not report it that way.
Yeah. So,
It concerned me greatly.
So my understanding would be is what the Act 46 Exploratory Committee wanted can still happen. It's just the formal committee has to vote to decide that. And then Steve Stitzel's answer further to North Bennington was, again, this is his opinion of it. And for those who are listening, I know Steve Stitzel is the SVSU attorney. And that we certainly could, petition either the Secretary of Education for a ruling or Secretary of State or whatever. But his opinion was we couldn't do it. So my understanding is North Bennington is waiting to see when this committee actually meets and agrees on form of governance and who's advisable and who's necessary, that they very well might vote to join, but they want to be assured that that's the path we're going to go down.
Okay. I don't have a question on that. But, Chris, when is the board going to discuss Act 46?
So that's my question for you. So we have three community volunteers for our 2 slots for the BSD reps. By the way, the only one application was copied and handed out. So
Only one?
only one.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And there. All right. Sorry.
So do you have a recommendation, Jim, when?
I think you should have a dedicated meeting to it. Once you get all your applications in and you could decide, you did that last time, decide who you want to be your 2 community members, and then have that discussion that George wanted, and I think Jean was referring to, about what the
I wanted
board's
to, but-
position, what the board's feeling is, what your charge that you're going to give to your representatives. So,
What we didn't do was set a deadline for applications.
no, you didn't. No.
Right. So I think what
We could set one tonight.
You could.
We could, and what I'm thinking is that we set it for another 2 weeks. It's on the website. There was an announcement of the Bennington banner. I've been pumping it out through Facebook. I believe Merity's also been pumping it out through Facebook. So the word is circulating. But if we circulate it with a deadline, that might create some urgency behind those people who are on the fence. So I don't know if it takes a vote or if it's just by general agreement, but I would propose that we set it up for 2 weeks from today. The applications are due 2 weeks from today. We have a dedicated meeting for it 3 weeks from today. We review the applications, we take our vote, we make these decisions.
So moved.
Thank you, Jackie.
I would, not that it matters, but I just wouldn't be available for that meeting on the 3 weeks.
What's the date?
And I didn't bring it.
Would it be an interview process? Like we had the last time,
Yeah.
we had the same set of questions for everybody.
What's the date? May 20?
Depends on who they are.
So is it that day or that week you wouldn't be available?
So that's the same night of the SU board meeting.
Okay. So if we were to have it, if we were to set a deadline for 2 weeks from today and maybe have that the following Thursday or Friday, the 18th or the 19th, how do folks feel about
That would
that?
be after, oh no, there's 5 weeks in May, right? So we wouldn't have a meeting.
18 or 19.
Right, so May 18th or 19th for a dedicated BSD meeting to review the applicants.
We're not meeting on Friday.
I would go with the 18th.
I just want to
What,
tell
like
you.
9 PM on Friday is what I was
I'm
thinking.
gone on the 19th, but the 18th, after 5 o'clock, I'm okay.
Yeah, the only thing I see on the school calendar, the 18th, is the Food Service Advisory Committee, but that's over by 4:30.
I have Molly Stark PTG event here.
Yeah, I won't be available on the evening.
Oh, that's right. That's why that sounds
So
familiar.
what is, like, okay, Tuesday the 23rd is ESP negotiations.
What happened
but-
to 17?
Why can't we just do?
That's the BSD
Why do we have to give them
band
2
concert,
weeks?
and my daughter's in it.
Give them a week, 1
Okay.
week. They've had a month.
Yeah, so you could do the 17th. It's, what's happening on the 17th?
BSD band concert.
What time is the concert?
7.
The
Seven? We could have it
MAU
before.
board is that night and Pownell board is that night. So-
I'll have
So
to
if-
take the kid there.
So taking what Jackie Prue just suggested, if we cut the deadline for a week from now, that makes it May 10th. If
Yeah.
we could potentially meet on the following day, the 11th?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
After 5.
After
No,
5.
Charlie?
I have a PTG meeting that day.
Okay.
What time is your meeting at?
Yeah.
5:30 to 6:30.
So we'll have it at 7.
I can miss it, it's fine.
What day is that?
That's Thursdays are bad for me.
Next
Okay.
Thursday?
So what if you went the following, so you close it on the 10th, what if you did either the 15th or 16th?
I can make the 11th work if it works for everybody else.
Like Monday the 15th, Monday night the 15th, or Tuesday?
That's the
night?
CDC meets.
Let's do the 15th,
but
if you can make it work.
The 11th.
11th, we
Yeah,
can
I'll
make
make
it
it
work.
work. Just
Okay.
do the 11th.
May 11th.
So May 11th at 6?
You don't need to sleep.
No,
Is that-
she's got a meeting from 5:30 to
To 6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
So it'll have to be at 7.
Maybe we meet here at
That's next
6:30. Would
week.
that work
If you
for
want to
you?
meet here at 6:30, that's fine.
Dr. Regis, would that be all right?
May
Do we have some
11th is
space?
probably next week, next Thursday.
So May 11th, 6:30 here at Molly.
I will not be here.
No, I canceled that appointment for you, George. You're available, you're available to come.
Okay.
So does the
I cannot
15th
make
or 16th work? The following Monday or Tuesday?
Well, how about maybe this, since rather than take up, where this is taking up a lot of time, how about, can folks email me their available times between the 10th and the 19th? And then we'll find the day that works hopefully best for everyone, and then nail it down from there.
That works.
So if folks could email me that, I would appreciate that.
From between 5 and after 5 o'clock on those days?
Yeah, after 5 o'clock on those
So the
days.
16th is the retirement dinner. You might want to stay away from that.
When was the
but
deadline?
I don't see any, we didn't give the deadline, remember?
Yeah, you did for the
Oh,
dinner.
for the retirement dinner?
The 5th, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because the 10th work for everybody, we could do the deadline on the 9th and meet on the 10th?
What is that?
No,
The deadline.
Okay.
no. Yeah, so if folks could please email me, their available time, they're available at evenings, the 10th through the 9th, yeah. Thank you. All right, so Jim, is that all?
That's it.
Here we go.
Okay, thanks. And can you get us the copies of the other 2 applicants, please?
Yes,
All
sorry
right.
that they weren't all there.
That's right. Yes.
For clarification, did you then set the deadline for applications as the 10th?
We need a second and a vote on that. So Dr. Kelly made the motion to end the deadline, have the deadline be on the 10th.
I'll second.
George is seconding it. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, so the 10th. And so we can, Jim, can that please be added to the SVSU website and then do another announcement in the paper too?
Yeah.
Great. So Meredith, a report for the food service?
There wasn't a meeting to my knowledge because it was vacation week.
Very good, thank you.
So according to Jim's chatter just 2 seconds ago, the next meeting is scheduled for the 18th?
Yes.
Yes? And it's at what time and where?
Oh, my channel?
It's either 3:30 or 3:45 at the
3:30?
middle school conference room.
3:30.
You should
At the middle
is the
school.
deadline.
Yes.
Okay.
Great,
So I have no report.
thank you. Shayla, SVSU report, please?
Yeah, we had our SVSU meeting, April meeting, last week. They're moving forward with having presentations at each of the SVSU meetings to just provide awareness on different things that are going on throughout the SVSU. And the presentation that we had was from Dr. Leap and Laura Boudreau, and they talked about the science standards, the new next generation science standards, and the work that is been going on there, and that these new standards were implemented in June of 2013, and it's been about a 3-year project due to end in fall 2017. And it's involved several teachers. They're working with state educators, and it is a new way of teaching science that requires a lot of shift in mindset for the teachers in terms of how they provide that education to their students. It's already going on in a lot of classrooms already, and it has been adopted in a lot of schools by a lot of the teachers. So it is just they're doing a lot of education on it, continued education with the teachers, and professional development. So there was also public comments that was provided by Cat TV, and they talked about a program that they have that's called What's New in the SVU, where they're doing segments on different things that are going on, different fun activities or programs or projects that are being handled in the different schools, or by the middle school, by the high school, and all the SVSU elementary schools. So just to keep your eyes out for that, and if there's anything, I would say, from the BSD that we're interested in wanting to promote through that, I would be in contact with Cat TV. They also voted to pass the contract for Dr. Leap. We voted policies to be adopted. It's all in the minutes that you can review on the SVSU site. And Jim Culkeen basically talked through what he talked about today with the Act 46 update, and that the information about North Bennington and where we are with that. So, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Any big highlights? Okay.
Great, thank you very much. Let's start with Dr. Kelly. Could you give us an update on the teacher negotiations,
Sure.
please?
Well, we've only actually agreed on 4 things so far, but there's many other things that are underway, and the biggest thing, of course, is the health care. And as you know, or listen to the TV, you can hear that even at the Vermont Senate and Representatives, they're still debating how it should be handled. There's a potential of saving a lot of money statewide, BSD-wide, or SVSU-wide. The potential is smaller, of course, but we haven't made any decisions on that. What they have made decisions on is course requirements, course reimbursements, and that's twofold. The first one was, and this was a good one, that after the completion, and there's 4 parts to it, of the national board certification process, that each one of the processes would be reimbursed. The second one was, and it's still kind of under negotiation, it hasn't been, but it was talked about, for each course, could that be paid for in advance? And one of the stalling points is and the teachers union agreed to this, is that they would reimburse, that the person who's taking the class, if they didn't complete the class, would reimburse the district. However, according to Steve Stitzel, there's no way to collect that money. We're not a collection agent, so it's kind of like a moot point. If it was a nice gesture on their part, but they're not able to do that. So they're still talking about that. Another thing that passed was the board meeting agendas, which sounds like, well, gee, an agenda. But in the past, we've put up agendas, or we've sent out emails, and we wanted to reduce the paperwork that was involved. But we've reduced it to the point where we only send it to 2 people now. And it would be the president and the union representative would receive it by way of email. And they would in turn post it. So that was signed off on. Another one was the professional assistant team. And I hadn't read that before, but what this was is if a teacher was lacking in skills, somebody would come in and help them achieve those points. And that whole paragraph has now been deleted. And that was signed off on. The next one that passed was teaching positions vacancies. Both teams agreed that there's no need to change them, that they will be posted and in the usual way, in the usual manner. And we have many ways to post teacher vacancies. So there was no need to change it. So that's off the table. The proposals that are still under discussion is the CDC teacher stipend. And I have here in my notes that a proposal to increase the stipend paid CDC teachers when they're asked to teach additional courses. So for instance, they have X number of courses that they have to teach each year. So if they taught additional classes, what kind of a stipend would, so that's still in negotiations. The next one was the non-teaching, CDC, non-teaching assignments. And the proposal was to increase the CDC student-teacher contact time and decrease the professional training time. So the association was going to review that. The next was and this was a long-winded one, protocol for teachers injured by students. And the discussion went over 45 minutes, and parts of what's in the contract right now, and it refers to the policies that are already in place at the SVSU. There's 2 kinds of problems, and one of them is a child with an IEP. So with a child with an IEP, according to the regs, there'd be an IEP meeting, and the outcome of that meeting would determine what would happen to the student. The other part is what happens when a non-IEP student injures a teacher. And so there are regs on this, there are administrative directions on this, and so that will continue to be talked about. There's no resolve right now. Again, Article 21, prepay for the course. This is still being reviewed, and since the SVSU cannot garnish wages. Another sticky point was teaching minutes and daily planning time for elementary teachers. And that was going to come to some resolve, but unfortunately, the week before this happened, there was no way to contact people within the schools because of vacation time. So that will be up and coming. And of course, the health insurance, there's 4 different levels, and each of those levels has 4 different adaptions. So, for instance, if you're a single person, you have to choose between 4 plans. If you're a person with a child or children, there's 4 different plans. If you're just a person with a spouse, 4 different plans, and then a family plan. So it's a matrix of 16 boxes, and it's not an easy choice.
Sure.
And I'm sure they're waiting to see what happens up in Montpelier.
Jackie, excuse me. How does this legislation that's going on, how can it possibly affect what's going on down here?
It's easy because they want to take, and I don't know.
No, my question is legally, suppose the Senate approves it.
Right.
Does that supersede, Jim? Does that
It would
supersede?
supersede, but the latest that we got today in our email blast of legislative updates is that it looks like the proposal is going to put it back to negotiations. Even if there was a statewide health insurance plan, it would go back to school boards to negotiate with teachers, but any savings would go to the ed fund.
He's not going to
which-
sign.
Which the School Board Association and the Superintendent's Association said, that's kind of a ridiculous idea. Where's the incentive for boards to do this if the savings isn't going to be kept local, but go somewhere else? So George, yeah, I think, with a session ending Friday, maybe early next week at the latest,
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it's going to happen this time. The idea has merit, but
The positive, of course, on this is, I don't know, yeah, when they say there's 26 million, I don't believe it, but the positive thing is, if it's negotiated for us and negotiated for every school district, then there's some kind of equity for people having this, so that our teachers aren't paying more or less than the people up in, Manchester, or people up in Burlington. So, we don't have salary equity, but we could have a little health equity. But the teachers' union doesn't seem to think that that's a good thing. I don't know why, but anyway.
Thank you.
The next one was, the next meeting, of course, is on May 8th, Monday. And it's long, it goes from 3 to 6.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Jackie Prue.
Well, we're doing the same thing with the insurance. They're going to tell us what they want at the meeting on Tuesday. And we're going to tell them what we're going to get, what we would think we might settle for. We want to stick with a dollar value, same plans, same things, but we want to hold it to a dollar value, not a percentage.
Okay.
We talked at length, and I do mean at length, about paraeducators being hurt by students. And we, like the teachers group, agree that it's in the administrative regs. But it's going to go back to the policy committee, because we would like that it put in that the paraeducators would be invited, because they're never invited to the meetings with the special ed kids or any of these things. They're not invited. Nobody hears their side or doesn't get to discuss how to maybe better handle this in the future. And they feel like they're left out. And often when they have an IEP meeting, you can understand the principal's point of view is they need coverage in the classroom. And the para usually covers for the teacher while she's in he's in the IEP room. So, but if they're the one that's being injured and they're the one, they should have some input. So we don't want to write it in the contract. You don't want that in the contract. But
because it would make it grievable.
That would make it
Subject to
grievable.
arbitration.
But somehow we want to get it in there, get it in the administrative regs or the policy, and make sure that the policy is followed. And there was a lengthy discussion about head lice, and we told them to read the policy because they wanted it written into the into the agreement that we would pay for their treatments and the time it takes them to clean their house and all that. And we said no. Real good thing on it is we all decided that I'm pretty sure we got a tentative agreement on that they're all going to be SVSU employees.
As opposed to some being employed by BSD?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
They're working on the language right now. We're pretty sure they seem to this board was pushing for it, it's been pushing for it. And the reason why is we had BSD paraeducators at Bennell who had been there years and years and years, and then we had a layoff. And they had, BSD had a layoff. We didn't need as many paraeducators, and those paraeducators had to leave. And SVSU paraeducators had only been in the system for a year or maybe just hired, were staying. So we've talked to them a lot about the language and how it would be written up and everything, and they're supposed to be coming to us with the language on it, and they will be SVSU employees instead of every district hire. We still pay for them, but.
Right.
Well, that also means that they could be moved around at will.
Sure.
Yes, and they understand that. More than likely, they're not going to be, but they could be.
But if there's a riff in the school, they wouldn't necessarily be shuttled aside the way they have
Yeah.
in the past. They could go to those vacancies. Okay. Anything else, Jackie Crew? Great. Thank you very much for that. So chair reports. I'll keep it brief. It's been said, but I'll say it again. Just thanks to all the teachers who do all the work that they do. I think probably each of us can think of at least one experience or one connection he or she had in elementary school that really made that for them, whether it was the safety of a school or the encouragement from a teacher or some help from a para. And all the teachers in the BSD are fulfilling that and meeting that for our students now. So thank you for all the work you do. At the last meeting, when we were doing committee appointments, we had talked about having a second rep, a backup rep to the two negotiating committees, not as a voting member, but as a representative. Because of rules already agreed to within those committees, that could not happen. With that said, a chunk of each meeting is open to the public, so certainly anyone who wants to can go and can listen in on that as well. We had also talked last month about me sort of providing my own personal vision for what the board could and should do. That hasn't happened. More because I'm thinking that rather than get the ball started in that vein, I'd like to tap each of you for your sense as well, and your thoughts and your beliefs in that as well. So in addition to emailing me about your availability for our Act 46 rep voting, I wonder if folks could also just email me and share that. And based on the input that you all provide for me, I'll come up with sort of a master list of the things that people have wanted to see incorporated within that vision, maybe even a draft of our own little mission statement, and have that be the basis of our conversation rather than be just sort of bloviating and telling you what I think. We'll have you guys kick in as well. And the last bit that I wanted to mention is that we had talked about having this meeting held at 6 o'clock, but here we are meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. My thanks to everyone, because that helps to accommodate my other extracurricular activities on the lacrosse field. That will continue into next month, but then after that, I'm certainly open for 6 o'clock meetings again. So we can hopefully get back to that. Yes, George.
I'd like to suggest the 7 o'clock rather than 6. I've got legal obligations as power of attorney for several families in Bennington, and I cannot make 6 o'clock meeting. I made it last time, but I just can't make 6 o'clock meetings. Now, if the majority wants to come at 6, that's fine, just understand that I'll come at 7, but there's no way I can legally be here.
Well, I think it would be improper for the board to set a meeting time when we know that one of our important board members can't attend.
Especially since it had been 7.
It had been
If
7,
we're
right.
changing it, but.
Yeah.
If you can't make it at 6, then.
6 is just,
Okay.
that's all. There are legal obligations that I have with these people, and it happens to be in the evening.
Say no more, George. Yeah, that's all right.
But let me say this, I certainly could be here by 6:30, if that's going to be in there. 7 is ideal.
Okay. Well, let's kick it around a little bit. We can make
whatever.
Yeah, but at least we know that it'll be 7 for next month as well. So that's it for the chair reports. And then agenda item 12, it's just FYI. So the budget status report, the SVSU enrollments for May, and then the policy 6141. So what? Yeah, sorry, Jayla.
I just want to make sure I understand what you want in the email. So when you say what we want the board to be? I just want to make sure I understand what you're looking for.
Yeah, sure, thank you. So several of us attended the new school board member training, and the man who was running the training spoke about boards sort of setting their own direction. Certainly we have our responsibilities for which we are charged, but each board should create its own vision. And what are the values that each of us as individuals want to see instilled in this board's collective values? What do we want to accomplish? What do we want our face to be? And I'm certain that each of us must have thoughts on that. Each of us sought this position on this board for a reason. Why? Why do people want to be on this board? What are their values that brought them to be in this place? And let's use those to create a central theme for what we want our work to look like. So I'm not sure if that answered your question,
It does.
offered any more
It does.
clarity. Okay. Great. So any further action around the FYI items other than naming them?
I have one more. I'd like to have a meeting of the facilities committee.
Okay.
That's Dan, me, and George. So we can go over and look at those, the mock-up, and look at the, and any questions that we might have. So.
Set the time.
Well, you guys can tell me when you're available. I can do it anytime.
Can we leave it to the three of you to have the conversation
Yeah.
after our meeting? Okay, great.
I would like to make a motion that we go into executive session.
Have a second?
Second?
Great. All those in favor going into executive session?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's go to executive session.
Any action after?
I don't believe so. Just to close.